Clint didn't say a word at first. He walked slowly toward the man, eyes locked on him, every step turning the room colder. The angry customer, still red in the face, tried to puff himself up, but his voice cracked as he said, "What? What do you want?" Clint stopped just a few feet away. His voice was low, calm, but carried enough weight to make the walls feel tighter. "I've been quiet for a long time," and he said, "watch people like you throw your power around like it costs nothing. But that ends now." The waitress stood there, still shaking, her apron stained with coffee and embarrassment. Clint looked at her gently and said, "You all right?" She nodded slowly, wiping her eyes. The manager began to step forward, but Clint held up a hand. "No need. Let him hear it from someone who's been around long enough to know better." Then he turned back to the man. "You see that girl? She's someone's daughter, maybe someone's sister. She's working hard, probably didn't sleep much last night, and still showed up with a smile. And you used that moment to tear her down because your steak was late." People at nearby tables were now recording. Others just stared in silence. Clint's words cut deep, not with volume, but with truth. Real men don't raise their voices at women working minimum wage. Real men don't measure their strength by how loud they can yell at someone who can't yell back. You want respect? Start by giving it. You want to be heard? Try listening first. Understood. Here's the corrected continuation with no spaces at the beginning of lines. The applause died down, but the energy in the restaurant had completely changed. People who'd been buried in their phones now sat up straight, watching, thinking. Some nodded to Jenna as she passed by. Others simply smiled. But everyone felt something shift. Clint returned to his seat, quiet again, as if nothing had happened. But to Jenna, it meant everything. That one moment had given her more strength than any paycheck ever could. She walked back into the kitchen, her steps a little steadier, her shoulders a little higher. And Clint? He just picked up his coffee, took a sip, and stared out the window like he always did, but now with a small smile playing at the corner of his mouth, because real change doesn't always start with a protest. Sometimes it starts with one person standing up when everyone else stays seated. The next morning, the video of Clint standing up for Jenna had gone viral. Social media exploded with clips and comments. People praised Clint's calm but powerful words, and even more praised Jenna for her strength in the face of humiliation. News outlets picked up the story. Reporters reached out to the restaurant, to Jenna, and even to the woman whose number Clint had written on the notepad. Within 48 hours, Jenna received not just one, but dozens of messages offering scholarships, job training, and mentorship opportunities. But amidst the noise, Jenna stayed grounded. She returned to work the next day as usual, tying her apron and greeting the kitchen staff with a quiet, "Good morning." Meanwhile, Clint sat at his usual booth again. Same coffee, same seat, same silence. When Jenna brought over his cup, she smiled and placed it gently in front of him. "Thank you," she said. "Not for the coffee, not for the crowd, but for the moment. The real moment." Clint looked up, nodded once and said, "Keep showing up. That's how you win." Jenna didn't need anything more. Those few words held more weight than all the applause and headlines. She turned and walked away, and in that simple exchange, a new version of herself began to form. Stronger, clearer, ready. Outside the restaurant, a young man watched the glass windows from across the street. He'd seen the viral video. He'd been one of those people who yelled when things didn't go his way. But today he didn't yell. He watched, he listened. And when a delivery driver accidentally spilled coffee on his shoes a minute later, instead of shouting, he helped him clean it up. Because kindness spreads, courage echoes, and sometimes the loudest lessons are learned in silence. A few weeks later, something unexpected happened. The man who had yelled at Jenna that day, the one who stormed out humiliated, walked back into the restaurant. Not with anger, not with ego, but with eyes that looked like they hadn't slept right since that day. He approached the counter slowly, hands trembling, holding a small bouquet of flowers that looked like he'd picked them himself. Jenna noticed him the second he stepped in. Her coworkers froze, waiting for her reaction, but Jenna didn't flinch. She stepped forward calmly and looked him straight in the eyes. He didn't speak for a moment. Then he took a deep breath and said, "I watched the video, not just once, over and over. And I hated what I saw. Not because of the people recording, but because I saw who I really was. And I'm sorry. I know it doesn't erase what I did, but I needed to say it. He handed her the flowers. These probably don't fix anything, but maybe they can start something. Jenna didn't smile. She didn't cry. She simply nodded. Thank you, she said. Then she did something no one expected. She offered him a table. Take a seat. Let me get you something. On the house. The man's eyes widened. Really? She nodded. Everyone deserves a chance to do better. You showed up. That matters. As she walked to the kitchen, Clint, who was, as always, seated quietly in the corner, watched the exchange. He didn't smile or say a word, but for the first time in a long while, he tapped his fingers slowly on the table, like he was proud of what the world was finally starting to understand. Kindness isn't weakness. Forgiveness isn't foolish. And sometimes the most powerful thing a person can do is give someone else a second chance. One evening, as the restaurant buzzed softly with the usual dinner crowd, a group of college students walked in, laughing loudly and teasing one another. They took a table near the center, unaware of the quiet history stitched into the walls around them. Jenna approached with her usual gentle smile, took their orders, and moved with the same calm grace she always carried. But as she walked away, one of the students, trying to show off, muttered a rude joke just loud enough for her to hear. The table burst into laughter. Jenna paused. For a brief second, her eyes dropped, her lips pressed together. But then she straightened her shoulders and turned around slowly. The student expected anger or a comeback. Instead, Jenna simply said, I hope your laughter always comes from kindness. It lasts longer that way. The room went quiet. The group fell silent, suddenly aware of the weight of their words. At the corner booth, Clint was watching. He had seen this pattern before, how some people laughed to feel bigger, not realizing how small it made them look. He didn't stand up this time. He didn't need to. Jenna had already done what needed to be done. She walked back to the counter, poured a fresh glass of water, and placed it gently in front of the same student. Stay hydrated, she said softly. Kindness is hard work. The student looked down, his face red, but his heart a little changed. He didn't say anything back, just nodded. Sometimes the loudest lessons are taught by the quietest voices. And in this place, those voices were everywhere, carried by people who had decided that dignity wasn't something you demanded. It was something you gave, even when it wasn't returned. The next day, word of what happened began to spread, not through viral videos or flashy headlines, but through whispers, through shared coffee breaks, through the kind of quiet admiration that grows when someone witnesses a moment of real strength. A few of the restaurant's regulars came in with small flowers tucked into their coat pockets, handing them to Jenna without saying much, just a nod, a look of respect. Even the student from the previous night came back, this time alone. He waited patiently in line, holding a small note folded in half. When Jenna walked by his table, he handed it to her without a word. Inside it read, You taught me something my parents and teachers never did. Thank you for your silence. It was louder than my ego. That evening, Clint Eastwood sat by the window again, sipping black coffee. He didn't look toward Jenna, but she noticed the faintest lift at the corner of his lips when he saw the note. That was his way. No applause, no big speeches, just a small, rare smile for those who earned it. Later that night, as the restaurant emptied, Jenna sat alone at a corner booth, staring out at the streetlights. Clint walked over, placed a folded napkin beside her, and walked away. On it, scribbled in simple handwriting, were the words, Keep going. You're changing more than just orders on a menu. Jenna held the napkin for a long time, not because Clint Eastwood wrote it, but because someone believed in her enough to write it at all. The restaurant wasn't just a restaurant anymore. It had become a place where broken people found healing, where rudeness met grace, and where silence often spoke louder than noise. And somewhere beyond the walls of that small diner, someone else needed to see this story. Because maybe, just maybe, it could change them too. Weeks passed. Jenna's story, though unspoken in headlines, began to ripple through the town like gentle waves touching every shore. More people came not just for the food, but for the feeling. A man who used to eat in silence began helping Jenna refill water glasses. A teenage girl who once scrolled through her phone during meals started bringing her grandmother in just to sit and talk. The rude man from the first day, now a regular, started volunteering at a shelter, something he'd never imagined himself doing before. And always in the corner, Clint Eastwood sat quietly, watching, listening. His presence had become something of a mystery and a comfort. People noticed him, yes, but no one disturbed him. He had become part of the place, like a memory that never fades, like a lesson always waiting to be learned. One stormy night, the power went out mid-dinner. Candles were lit, and laughter replaced electricity. Instead of panic, people leaned into the moment. Jenna, standing behind the counter, began humming a soft tune. Slowly, a voice joined in, then another. The restaurant, once filled with noise and orders, became a place of quiet music and connection. Clint, sitting in the dim light, tapped his fingers softly against his cup, keeping rhythm, keeping time. When the lights finally returned, no one rushed to leave. They stayed, smiling, sharing stories, warming their hands on coffee mugs like old friends at a family gathering. That night, as Jenna wiped down the tables, Clint approached her for the last time. He didn't say much, just handed her a small envelope. "Not money," he said before she could open it. "Just something I wanted you to have." He left before she could respond. Inside the envelope was a single sheet of paper. On it, in his careful handwriting, was a quote. "Sometimes the strongest people are the quiet ones, the ones who serve, who smile, who forgive, and still stand tall." Below it, a note in smaller script. "This story doesn't end here. It begins with you. If you felt something while watching this story, if it reminded you of the power of kindness, the strength of silence, and the courage to stand for others, subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so you never miss the next true and powerful moment that just might change your day or your life."